Williams Lake's first airport has a red light, green light history. Williams Lake is a city in British Columbia's central interior, a service center for Cariboo Chilcotin ranches and for fighting wildfires. Williams Lake is about 150 miles or 240 kilometers south of Prince George and about 345 miles or 550 kilometers northeast of Vancouver. By the late 1920s, aircraft were a fact of life in central and northern BC. Many of the early pilots favored float planes, which could land on any good-sized body of water. The first recorded landing of an aircraft at Williams Lake was reported in the Williams Lake Tribune in September 1927. An Alexander Eagle Rock, it was owned by Clyde Wan of Yukon Airways. Wan and a crewman had planned a flight to the Yukon through the interior. Communities along the way were advised that they intended to do some barnstorming and give rides and exhibition flights to finance their delivery flight home. Keith Caverly was the Williams Lake contact who advised Wan of a potential landing area north of the village. It was a horse pasture, and before that, a racetrack. Caverly put white lime inside old truck tires to mark the strip's boundary, and for wind speed and direction, a smoky fire was used. The Eagle Rock, named Northern Light, arrived mid-afternoon. Locals are waiting their turn for a ride. The cost? $7 for 3 minutes. So impressed with this flying machine, the police sergeant hitched a ride to Quesnel, where he had police business. After that, most of the air activity in the area involved float planes. They used the Williams Lake itself for landing and docks adjacent to the village. Between 1929 and 33, Western Canada Airways, later Canadian Airways, operated 2 Boeing flying boats, CF-ABA and CF-ABB. They were likely on a mining contract. When the village was incorporated in 1929, a campaign began for a licensed airfield, and an airfield was established at the site of that first landing. A formal request from Ottawa asked the village to prepare a detailed survey of the airport site during October 1932. In late spring 1934, the airfield was inspected by the Civil Aviation Branch, Department of Defense, RCAF, from Jericho Beach, Vancouver, and an airport license was issued in June. The site was 2,700 feet long by 400 feet wide. 2 roads later crossed the airfield, but its biggest drawback? Grazing cattle. On April 1st, 1937, a wheel-equipped Fairchild 51A began using the airfield. After the airfield was crossed by 2 roads, the Department of Transport lapsed the village's airport license about 6 months later. The airfield was licensed again, and in January 1938, the inaugural airmail flight took off from Ashcroft, first landing at Williams Lake, then Quesnel to Prince George and Fort St. John. There it connected with the Yukon-Edmonton airmail. This weekly flight continued until May 1938. In April 1939, the Williams Lake Tribune reported the cancellation of Yukon Southern service due to safety concerns and cancellation of the airport license. The village went to work. Trees were cut, fences built, roads crossing the airfield were rerouted. In October 1939, the Department of Transport had awarded a contract to enlarge the airfield to 3,400 by 400 feet and leveling and seeding the grassy areas. In 1940, the license was reinstated. Yukon Southern Air Transport resumed service. In early 1941, a non-directional radio beacon was installed for aircraft landing or transiting by Williams Lake. But Yukon Southern's air transport again suspended service, saying the airport length was insufficient for its new, larger aircraft. The airport was now under the administration of the Department of Transport that said no more money was available for improvements. After Pearl Harbor, the Department of National Defense assumed responsibility, and the airport became RCAF Station Williams Lake. A second line of defense called for airports in the BC interior at Williams Lake, Dog Creek, Woodcock, Smithers, Vanderhoof, Prince George, and Quesnel. RCAF Organization Order Number 126 was dated May 20th, 1943, stating that Williams Lake would be designated as Number 12 Staging Unit. It would be improved, so in an extreme emergency, and should an enemy gain a foothold on the coast, fighter aircraft could be quickly located here as a secondary line of defense. On October 6, 1942, an RCAF Norseman on floats arrived at Williams Lake on a photographic survey of the airfield. They operated from Williams Lake itself until they left for Kamloops 3 days later. They returned to photograph the airport in August 1943, this time in an RCAF Bolingbrook. In September 1945, the airfield was handed back to the Department of Transport. A temporary airport license was issued to the village in December 1946. In April 1950, the village asked the Department of Transport that the department operated radio navigation facilities and the air radio and weather reporting service at Dog Creek be relocated to Williams Lake to better serve a larger community. In 1950, Canadian Pacific Airlines expanded its northern service to include Williams Lake on a regular schedule. The village rolled out the welcome mat. In the words of airline president Grant McConaughey, "I've never seen anything like it for a town this size." By 1950, because of the terrain, the airport had been expanded to its maximum, 5,500 feet long by 200 feet wide. In 1953, the town asked the federal government to develop a new airport, and in September 1956, the Department of Transport began construction. The current airport, which opened in September 1959, is 4.5 miles northeast of Williams Lake, with a single 7,000 by 200-foot runway that was licensed for day use only. In the summer of 1958, the village and the Williams Lake Flying Club held its first and very successful air show and fly-in with at least 20 aircraft. An aerial photograph shows 110 cars and 2 buses and Royal Canadian Air Cadets parading on the runway. In December 1960, the landing and approach lighting were completed, and Canadian Pacific Airlines began using the new airport exclusively for its Vancouver-Quesnel Prince George service. The official opening of the new airport was in July 1961, and the old village airfield was closed after 33 years of service. The old airport land was bought up, and a subdivision soon took root.